Hi guys, this is Zach from Watches on You. Now, I know we've been quiet for a little while, but due to the coronavirus situation and also both my brother and I, we just graduated from our respective schools. I graduating from high school, and then he graduated from college. And so we've been kind of busy this time, so sorry for the lack of content, but we are going to be back. Now, our videos, in at least for the time being, are going to be a bit more different than what we typically do. We usually do hands-on watch reviews, watch down with the watch down at the table and the camera looking at it, as I'm sure if you're a returning viewer, you're familiar. We're going to be doing some more discussion videos and things that are going to be in this format with me talking face to face with the camera. Um, we just it's a bit hard right now to get any watches, so that's part of it. Just because of the whole coronavirus situation, brands and as well as the dealers are locking down pretty hard, as they should, to take due precaution for the current situation and to make sure that this disease does not spread any further. But due to that, we just don't have as good of as much access to the timepieces as we typically do and would like to have. So this is what the videos will be like until we see that access again. I hope you guys like it. But now going into this video. So this video I'm going to be talking about the brand new Tudor release that was the Black Bay 58 Navy Blue. So I'm sure many of you are familiar with the Tudor Black Bay and also the Black Bay 58 itself. But just to reiterate what this watch is kind of about. So the Black Bay is a 42 millimeter timepiece that uses an in-house Tudor movement, and it really brought the brand back. It is it's very famous now in the watch market. I mean, if you know anything about watches, you'll know the Tudor Black Bay probably too. It's becoming ever more popular as I speak too. It came out originally, actually, I should say, with an ETA movement. They then moved it to an in-house, which kind of shocked the watch industry because of its price point. And the Black Bay 58 came out a few years back. Where it basically offered the exact same watch, but in a thinner case and a smaller case. So it comes in at only 39 millimeters, which I think is fantastic. And it comes in at roughly 13 millimeters in thickness. So this watch, when it came in, also it kind of took the watch world by storm because it offered so many features in a watch that is at such a good price point. So these watches come in at 3,700 on the bracelet or 3,375 on a strap. Now that having an in-house Tudor movement with 70 hours of power reserve, I'll add a chronometer certified movement as well, 300 meters of water or 200 meters of water resistance, sorry, and just the excellent finishing that Tudor does, which is very close to Rolex level. There isn't really a better offering out there, and that's kind of what I'm going to talk about, is why I love the Black Bay Blue. So the original model was a black dial. It was gilt, so the indices used gold around the loom plots, and also the hands themselves were gold as well. This new one is a sterile watch, so it's all silver. There's no gold, and it also has, and then so it just makes it look a lot more modern, I should say. It's not, I wouldn't say it's a faux patina on the 58, but it definitely is trying to look like a more vintagey timepiece, versus this one is kind of a timepiece for the modern day. And I should also add that the bezel, the text on the bezel of the old one was gold, and also the triangle at 12 o'clock on the diver's bezel was red. Which is harkening back to the vintage models. But I've always loved the Black Bay Blue, just the original one too. I'm more of a fan of the sterile dial, just because I kind of like the more modern look of it. And also, I'll add that a lot of the watches back in the day, even like the old Submariners and stuff, they were mainly sterile dial watches. Yes, there were some gilt ones, and I believe the specific model that these are based on were gilt, but then that kind of faded away just as modern styling started to come into play. So I really like having now a sterile dial option, I'll call it, with the silver, or a kind of harkening back vintage dial option with the gold. So I think they're really playing to everyone in the watch industry and what they would want, or I should say the consumer base of their watches. So you can really pick and choose. And I think that it also is good too because someone who isn't really into watches but just wants a nice watch. I mean, there's plenty of people out there, being that you guys are watching YouTube videos on this, you are one of them, but there are plenty of people out there that just want a nice watch to wear, and they're just going to pick the one that looks the best. And that's, for a lot of people, not going to be the vintage looking timepiece. Is not a huge, there are a lot of people that just like a modern timepiece that looks great. So to have now this model, which I think will bring in a lot of people that aren't necessarily into watches but want a nice watch, I think is fantastic. And just in that 58 case, which I don't know if Tudor's going to do this, but I honestly think they should, is just to get rid of the original Black Bay model and bring it all to the Black Bay 58. That way they can focus on the production, because there's bound to be a shortage of these timepieces. There was with the original 58, and I don't see any other reason for there not to be for this one. They can focus on the production of the 58 model, because there isn't necessarily now with this new color option coming out a big reason to buy the original 58 other than buy the original Black Bay, other than that you can't buy the 58. So I think that would be a good idea for Tudor. Let me know what you guys would think about that. But I just think from a production standpoint and from a furthering, I guess, and for increasing sales and things, I think that's probably the best option that they would have regarding these timepieces. So, and that, I mean, that is one thing too. I mean, if you guys can pick one up, I would recommend it. I'm sure these are going to be going up in the secondary market right away just because of the shortage. Um, and I see no reason not to believe that, just because, I mean, it is such a nice timepiece, especially for the money. And I want to compare some of that too. So when you're $3,700, that's a lot of money. I mean, I'm not going to say that that isn't a lot of money. Of course it's a lot of money. You're talking about thousands of dollars for a timepiece. Many people would think that's crazy. But just to compare it to other watches in the watch market, let's go, one I've seen let's go to Bremont first, because they're kind of known in this kind of price range. They do a lot of work in it. But let's go to their S300 Black watch, and I'll put a picture up for you just so you know what I'm talking about. This is kind of uh, their diver's watch. I mean, it's the basic kind of diver's watch that they sell. If you're looking for a Bremont diver's watch, it's probably going to be this one. They do it in different colors, of course, so you can kind of pick and choose what you want. But this is really the basic one, and it comes in at a price of $4,000 on a rubber strap. So if you're comparing it to we'll compare it to the strap Tudor Black Bay, that's coming up about $700 more expensive for a Bremont, which uses an ETA movement, has what I would argue would be about the same finishing, maybe slightly worse, and only 100 meters of water resistance extra, so it has 300 meters total. And so I don't really see necessarily where that watch fits now, because Tudor kind of threw, I guess, kind of, I wouldn't, there's really no way I would recommend the Bremont over the Tudor. I like the Bremont. I like a lot of Bremonts that they make, and they're not horrible watches. If you like the Bremont styling and you don't like the Tudors, get the Bremont. But it's just from a purely, I guess, objective standpoint, you're going to have to argue to get the Tudor. So let's go to Breitling now. So the Breitling Super Ocean Automatic 42, I'll compare it to the 42 instead of the 44, just closer in sizing. That on a bracelet in blue is going to come in at $3,950. Again, this watch is using an ETA-based movement. You do get 500 meters of water resistance, so that is over double, but most people in the watch market are not taking their watches anywhere near to even 200, so that shouldn't be, honestly, that's not really a huge deal at all. And I mean, just very similar in build quality, I would say. With, again, maybe you could argue that the Tudor does some things better and the Breitling maybe does some things better. But I think that the Tudor also is a more refined timepiece than this, just from a subjective level. So again, I couldn't really argue spending the extra $250 over the brace, and that is on a bracelet, over the bracelet option Tudor. I just think there's really no way you could say that that's a better watch. And also, when you consider resale value, Breitlings are notorious for depreciating quite a bit, whereas Tudors, they depreciate more than Rolex generally. Not, well, they're still high in demand, which I would expect the 58 would be in for a while. They don't depreciate that much. In their price point, they definitely hold their value better than any other brand. And you could even call into question getting something, I mean, I was gonna say Omega Seamaster even. That's just over $5,000, but you could call that into question too. That has a slightly less power reserve. I mean, 60 hours of power reserve. It's got 300 meters, so an extra meter, 100 meters of water resistance. I mean, it does, though, however, come with a much better finished movement and a ceramic bezel and some other features like that. But you can still call that into question a bit because Tudor offers most of those features in what I would argue again is maybe a more classic design. I do love the Seamasters though, so if you want a Seamaster, get a Seamaster. I have no problem with that watch at all. It just kind of throws the market off a bit. Because I don't see anyone else offering any watches close to that at that price point. So I think that this is going to be a tough thing for other brands to respond to, and I would love to see some responses in this price range. I think that would be great. More watches is definitely better. And I think that there still would be a market for that. I mean, if Omega wants to make something that would compete with the Tudor, take some of the features away from the big Seamaster and maybe redo this. I think what would be really cool for Omega to do as a response to this is, so the Seamaster 300, I'm talking about the vintage one, not the professional 300 meters that I was discussing before. I'll put pictures up so you can see. But the Seamaster 300, the kind of vintage one, if they made that, instead of being kind of a luxury Seamaster Professional, if they somehow were able to drop the price point down to the level of around the Tudor, I'm not sure what they would have to do that make this happen. I'm sure they're never going to do this, but I think that they could do a very compelling dive watch at around the price of the Tudor if they were to do that, and then and then they would advertise the Seamaster Professional as the true diver's watch versus the 300 is going to be, yes, it's a driver's watch and you can dive with it, but it's not the real professional model. If you want just a nice looking dive watch for around that price point, I think that would be great because again, the Tudor isn't really a true professional dive watch. That's what the Pelagos is for. It's kind of a, yes, you can dive with it if you do occasional diving, but if you just want a really good looking watch, because in my opinion also dive watches are probably one of the best, if not the best looking timepieces, I think that would be a great thing. I just think that would be really cool if Omega were to answer in some way, dropping a price down to around the 4 mark, maybe slightly higher because they want to keep it up a little bit. I think that'd be really cool. So I've been kind of rambling on for a bit here. So let me know what you guys think in the comments of this Tudor. And also, what do you think they're going to do with the 58 line in the future? Are they going to do a 58 GMT? That's something that would be really cool. What other colors would you like to see? I think green would be really cool, kind of doing a... I would honestly see a Kermit with the 58. I think that would be really cool. Black dial, green bezel. And do you think they're going to bring the red in, or the burgundy, that colorway to the 58 line? I don't know. I think they could do a lot of cool things with the Black Bay 58 lineup that would really make it the most, I mean, I think it already is the most compelling dive watch again, as I've been talking about, but make it just even better and further the Tudor brand. So again, let me know in the comments what you guys think of this model, what you think they're going to do moving forward in the future, what they're going to do with their other lines, whether you think the Black Bay still has a spot in their collection, just the base Black Bay, because I'm not honestly sure that it does. So yeah, so let me know what you guys think. Thank you guys for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, and share. Thank you.